All right, that's always my favorite start to everything. All right, so welcome. We're going to be talking about off track and recovery students, really talking about like what it means to be off track and how that can impact graduation.
Hola, vamos a hablar de los estudiantes que están en el lado equivocado y tienen que empezar a recuperar todos sus grados y todas sus tareas que no han entregado.
So I want to start real quick. We are a wolf pack. And I do want to dispel the myth that a wolf will leave behind those that are weak or those that are suffering. In fact, science has shown that a wolf will actually care for others. They pass down knowledge. They find those that are injured and they will work around a group. And so this is a wolf pack coming together to really support students who need it the most.
Para los lobos, está dando un artículo de los lobos, que los lobos se tienen que cuidar entre ellos mismos, entre ellos se protegen y hacen una amistad que nutricia y se ayudan cuando están adoloridos o enfermos.
So here is the agenda for today. We're going to be going over what is a track, what it means to be off track. We're going to talk about some of the consequences of being off track, and then we're going to talk about the ways that you can get back on track, and then we'll wrap up for today.
So estos es los requisitos que vamos a tratar de hablar hoy, es cómo seguir en track de todas las tareas y las calificaciones, qué es lo que pasa cuando no están en el lado donde deben de estar, qué son las consecuencias y qué puede hacer para volver a ajustar sus calificaciones.
All right, so let's start in tracks. Like what is on track, what is off track, what is recovery, and how are these three groups kind of help us define our support system?
So, las tres cosas que podemos hablar es cuando un estudiante está en el nivel donde debe de estar, donde está en el nivel donde no debe de estar y qué necesita hacer para recuperarse.
All right, so right now, what we like to describe as tracks, we have four major tracks that kids can be a part of. And we really look at getting as many kids at the top here. And then what we do is as students do well or not do well, they might bump down into another category or track. So I'll start there and then we'll talk about each of those tracks and what they mean.
So las tracas que está hablando el principal son 4. Él trata de que todos los estudiantes sigan arriba en el primero y ya depende en el trabajo que vayan entregando y en las tareas que vayan entregando, se van calificando en las demás 3.
Can you still see that? Is it still up?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So the first track is the associate track. This is where the ag prep students fall in, as well as our additional expansions in the future. These students are working for an associate degree that will transfer. For transfer, students in here need to have a 2.0 in their BC classes or higher, and they need to have 60 BC credits completed by the end of their senior year, in addition to all of their California requirements that they take at WCPA as well.
La pista que deben de tener los estudiantes que van a ir a una preparatoria, una escuela que tiene una CSU, tienen que tener un curso por lo menos de 2.0 GPA y 39 créditos considerados del colegio.
Now, in the next group down, we have the CSU Breadth. And now the difference here, because you'll see that the CSU Breadth are also taking collegiate courses at BC right now. And those students also need a 2.0 GPA, but only needing 39 BC credits. And so the big difference is going to be the type of or the topic of the BC class you take and the amount, because we went from 60 down to 39.
So la primera pista que deben de tener el estudiante, hay diferente a la segunda, tienen que tener un 2.0 GPA, pero en la primera tienen que tener 260 de calificaciones de colegio, créditos de colegio, disculpe, y en la segunda tienen que tener 39.
And so students, they start in the associate track. Maybe they don't do so well in some BC classes. And after looking, we determined that the best thing is going to be for them to take the CSU breadth track, which will allow them to do a little bit better. And then if they're not doing well in the CSU breadth track, they're going to be bumped down to the AG California track.
Con las pistas, la primera les recomienda para los estudiantes que tienen todas esas calificaciones, que tienen todo al corriente, ya después se los mueven, si ya empiezan a tener problemas para ajustar esos grados, entonces se le mueve al CSU y es otra pista que ayuda a los estudiantes. Aparte de eso, si esos no están calificando para esa pista, entonces está el AG California, que también tiene los mismos requisitos para las universidades.
So universities 1 and 2 in the A through G establish a common set of course amounts and credits that kids need to take to be ready for college in high school. And so what you see here is that this A through G really represents like English. How many English classes do you need to take? Social studies. How many social studies classes do you need to take? So you need to take all of, you need to take all of those requirements and then make sure you have a 3.0 GPA or better in order to be able to achieve your A through G degree.
Para la beca de AG California, tiene que tener los créditos para una universidad donde pueden tener una C o mejor.
And then in the last bucket here, we have the high school grad track. And in this bucket, these are really 13 courses that are required, but lead to about 250 credits total that you need to have, and you need to be at least at a 2.0. Now of note, you need to be at a 3.0 or higher to make sure that you are eligible at this point for the wonderful education scholarship that is offered to our seniors.
La última calificación que se puede hacer aquí en la Escuela Wonderful es agarrar 13 cursos de preparación mínima para el colegio, tener un 2.0 GPA o 250 créditos. Para agarrar el certificado o la beca que ofrecemos aquí en la Educación Wonderful, tiene que tener un 3.0 GPA para recibir esa beca.
And so these are the 4 main tracks to graduation for all of our students. They enter in 9th grade, and we believe all students enter 9th grade and are working in that associate track. And as they perform or fail to perform, we then alter their track that would best be needed for them to be able to graduate and move on to their career of choice.
Estas son las 4 pistas que ofrecemos aquí en el Colegio Wonderful. El primero es lo que pensamos que todos los estudiantes quieren lograr, ya cuando empiezan a bajar las calificaciones y no prepararse, no hacer la lucha de hacer todo eso, entonces se va poniendo en las diferentes pistas que ofrecemos.
All right, so we're going to move on. So when you look at each of those tracks, whether you're at the CSU breadth or the associate or the AG, you have to ask yourself, well, how do you know if a student is on track for graduation for whichever track that they are working for? And so we really look at 4 main data points. And believe me, I know our counselors, our admin, everybody look at way more than 4 data points, but these are 4 data points that I want to point out that are vital for you as a parent to know as your child progresses to graduation.
So hay estas 4 pistas donde quieren que todos los padres entiendan para que sepan en qué pista de los 4 que enseñamos anterior están los estudiantes.
So we have attendance is the first marker, and we primarily look at students who fall below the 95% mark. So our goal is that all students are here 100% of the day, 95% of the year. And I know that might sound confusing, but you're thinking about if they're here for a day, they're here for the full day, but they can miss 5% of the school year and still be considered on track. Once you fall below that 95%, research shows that the further you get from that, the more likely you are to fall behind in your studies.
Dice que el primer requisito es la tendencia. Tienen que tener por lo menos 95% días presente a 100% de días presente. Recomiendan, las estadísticas dicen que si un estudiante ha venido menos del 95% en todo el año, entonces no van a ser los niveles que deben de ser en la escuela.
All right, so the next one are credits. And we do have a separate parent form that is already on Parent Square about credits. But credits are sort of like currency you get as you pass a class. If you get a C or higher, you get credits saying you passed it. Here are your credits for passing. You have to earn a certain amount of credits in order to graduate from high school. Missing one class can keep you credits away from being able to graduate on time.
So, los créditos es otro requisito que ocupan, los créditos de cada clase que pasas en el semestre. Durante todo el semestre de toda la escuela se van acumulando los créditos. Si fallas una clase o no pasas una clase, esos créditos se van retrasando y vas agarrando menos de lo que es requisito.
Now, in addition to those credits, you also have to take certain courses and pass them. These are course graduation requirements. In all of our tracks, there are specific courses that you must pass to graduate. English 9, for instance, is one of those courses you must pass to graduate. So you could pass all of your high school courses, fail English 9, and you won't be able to graduate.
Aparte de los créditos que tienen que acumular, hay unos cursos que tienes que tomar. Ejemplo es un inglés del grado 9. Si no la pasas y tienes todos tus créditos, entonces tienes que volver a tomar esa clase y no puedes graduarte.
And the last bucket is the grade point average. This is the GPA. Again, we talked about this in a previous forum. It goes from 0 to 4. But this tells us how well they are doing in the classes that they have taken and earned credits in or failed to earn credits in. The lower the GPA, the less successful the number is when people look at the number in college, in businesses.
So el GPA es el último. Ese dependen todos los grados se acumulan en el GPA. So, todos los cursos en cualquier colegio que vayas dependen en el GPA en todas las calificaciones que agarres. O los grados que agarres, disculpe.
So if your child is doing one of those things and might be missing a class or might be missing credits, then they're going to be considered off track or in recovery. This is how we bucket students when we're reviewing their cases to determine what they need. And so I'm going to talk about the difference between off track and recovery in a moment.
So las pistas que están dando que un estudiante puede perder una o dos cursos o créditos, entonces es cuando se atrasan y es lo que les afecta para graduación y es lo que van a tratar de hablar hoy para ver qué pueden hacer para recuperar esos grados o esos cursos.
So the first group here, I'm going to go to the right, is recovery. Off track. These are students who have missed 1 to 2 course credits or required courses in the previous semester or current semester, and they will miss a significant portion of the credits that they are working towards. Again, the student is going to have to make some changes to the way they think about school, to the way they view themselves in order to do better at school.
Estas son las pistas que los estudiantes tienen que pensar y ver en qué forma tienen que mejorar. Los estudiantes que han pasado 1 o 2 cursos o créditos que no han graduado este último semestre, entonces es donde tienen que mirar y tienen que ver a ver si van a querer recuperarse o van a quedar atrasados.
This other bucket here are students who missed multiple credits over multiple years. So they have shown a consistent pattern of not being able to be successful. And so we differentiate those between a kid who might have had a family issue or something else come up, and so they missed a credit in the fall. We look at them a little bit differently than somebody who over the past 3.5 years has missed a credit every single semester. Those are two different types of cases.
So, para un estudiante que necesita recuperar, está un estudiante que ya lleva varios semestres que no está pasando sus clases, que ha tenido problemas en el pasado o ha tenido diferentes situaciones, entonces eso ya se considera recuperación en contra de un estudiante donde nomás ha perdido una clase o no ha perdido ninguna, so ahí es donde se miran diferentes los estudiantes. Por eso es justo.
Are we able to ask any questions? I'm just wondering.
Yeah, no, I was just about to pause and say, do you guys have any questions at this point?
Okay, well, I have one daughter that's in both in the both programs, which they've been doing. My youngest is doing extra better than anything that, like, she's been improving on every category she has. She's reached principals, academic, everything. And my other daughter, she was absolutely great ever since she's been in this school. This year, for some reason, she lost motivation.
Yep.
She's used to being in class. She's used to being motivated by the teacher, used to motivating other people. So it's like getting to a point where, how am I supposed to fix this? How am I supposed to get her motivated? How am I supposed to try to make her understand this is how it's going to be for the moment when things are difficult right now for her, and it's getting to her because she's not motivated, and she's been a straight A student for the past 2, 3, 4 years. So that's where I'm at, and this is the reason I jumped into this, was trying to ask questions, because I even called the counselors to try to have them contact her and see how she's doing, and they only called her once, and it's getting really, really difficult. And I'm trying to see how this can help her.
Yeah, no, those are great. And I think when we get to the end of this session, let's chat real quick and let me get the name, and I can set something up a little bit more for you to help you out on the side there as well. But one thing I'd like to talk about is what are the grades? Because that matters a little bit. What grades are they in?
Right now, she has A, B, C's, and then she has.
Oh, I'm sorry, like grade level, like 9th grade, 11th grade.
She's 11th right now.
Okay,
she's
all right.
11th, yeah.
So a couple of ways I would look at it, especially with the grade level, like the age that is 11th grade. So one is, it is very likely that come next year, we're going to be back in person at some point, either this spring or next year, we're going to be back in person. And the best year you're going to have is by having all of the credits you can have from this year. And so while I'm not gonna lie, it sucks right now. And I get that. And it's really hard for kids. It's hard for everybody. And I think it's just a matter of, I think that the generation going through this right now and teenagers, this is a way to develop perseverance.
Yes.
And I think it's a good thing of saying, like, I've been knocked down, but I can get back up. Now,
no, I understand that. Like,
it's trying to help of how you do that. I would say short goals work really well. So I think, like, if somebody is at like an F or a D saying, like, I want you to be at a B or an A, probably is a self-defeating purpose because the student feels it's hard to get to that point. So it might be, okay, you're sitting at a 55%. Well, let's take 2 weeks and can we get to a 65%? And then after that, can we get to a 70% for a week after that? And what we find is that there's a snowball effect as kids get more confidence. And we're seeing more kids who look at the short term and say, you know what? I normally turn in 2 assignments a week. This time I'm going to turn in 4 assignments a week. And it might make a small difference now, but slowly that snowball effect just builds up to more confidence and they're able to be more successful along the way. And so the small goals and breaking everything down, I think helps a lot of the kids. And that's what I've been trying to focus on in some of the meetings we've been having. But I'll pause there so Miss Julie can interpret. And then at the end of the session, let me chat with you a little bit directly, and then we can get something set up separately for your daughters too, okay?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dice el principal que cuando un estudiante está bajando o está tratando de subirse, les está dando un gol chiquito donde les está ofreciendo, ok, en esta semana sube tu grado a 40%. Ok, lo suben al 40%, le están dando otro gol. Súbelo a 60%. Ya cuando llegan a un gol, entonces eso es lo que les están ayudando, los están motivando a quedarse en el área donde deben de quedarse para que no se atrasen más de lo que deben de estar. Por ejemplo, si un estudiante está impuesto a nomás entregar 2 tareas en una semana, entonces le está diciendo, en vez de entregar 2, entrega 4. Poco a poquito para que ellos empiecen a sentir más cómodos y más a gusto con lo que van entregando y no se atrasen tanto.
All right, thank you. All right, so here's an example of how we look at things from the 9th grade viewpoint and how that affects everything upwards. So all 9th graders start on the same path, which is an alignment to being with the associate. If you pass all of your BC courses, you pass all of your WCPA courses, you get granted access to that associate for transfer track. If you fail one, then you are going to have the chance to make up in the spring and the summer. You might have Plato courses. If you pass all of those, you get back to the associate track. Now, if you fail multiple courses, WCPA or BC, over the course of this 1 year, well, now your spring course load is going to be impacted because you have to take all of your spring courses plus all of the failed credits you missed. And there's the potential that if you are failing multiple BC courses in a row, you could go on BC probation, which removes the amount of BC classes you can take. And this might create a barrier that you're not able to get to be in that associate track.
So, en el grado 9 automáticamente todos los estudiantes están puestos en 3 clases de colegio, aparte de las clases de los cursos que tienen que completar para el WCPA. Y eso los llega a seguir en el mismo nivel del Associate's Degree, la beca que ofrecemos. Si una clase de colegio están fallando y están entregando todas sus clases de WCP o están completando todas esas clases, entonces se van al segundo nivel. Si completan todo eso en el verano, entonces todavía se consideran estar en el programa de Associates. Si ya van fallando 2 clases de colegio y están aparte fallando todas las clases de todos los cursos de WCPA, entonces ya es más difícil y probablemente están en el nivel donde tienen que parar las clases de colegio. Esos son los tres diferentes lugares donde pueden estar los estudiantes del grado 9.
Thank you, Ms. Julie. All right, so why do students primarily need recovery or off-track support? A failing grade is not the reason. And in all of my conversations with families and with students, it is not because the student can't do it. I have yet to meet a student that can't get the credits that they are offered in their classes. Normally, what we find and what research has found is in this list right here. A lot of the time it has to do with the belief, right? Student doesn't believe that high school graduation is important. They don't believe that they need the knowledge and concepts they're being taught. They don't understand how education impacts their life later on. And so with those, it's really good as like a parent, and we're trying to do more of this as a school as well, is to explain why school is important, why we're here, how it will impact their future. And I'll pause there.
Cuando un estudiante se pone en la pista de recuperarse, es porque los estudiantes ya no sienten o no creen que la graduación es importante. Es cuando ellos creen que no necesitan terminar la escuela por alguna razón. Todos los que hacen research, esos creen que los estudiantes es lo que ocupan, que ellos estén asegurados que la graduación es importante y dicho por sus papás, por sus amigos, por sus familiares, para que los empujen a terminar la high school.
And what we often find is that there is common set of behaviors and actions when students aren't on track. Students aren't attending classes regularly. They don't stay engaged. They're not taking breaks when they feel overwhelmed, right? If you're in class and you get overwhelmed, it's okay to like, excuse me, teacher, like I just need a couple like moments to breathe real quick and then I'll come back, right? Taking breaks when you do work. They don't attempt the work. This one's here too, is they're not using all of the resources provided, right? We have lots of paid resources available to students that aren't available at other schools. For instance, the tutor.com one is a huge resource to take advantage of. You can get a knowledgeable expert in any of the subjects to help in English or Spanish 24/7 hours of the day.
So hay muchos estudiantes que no entienden todos los beneficios que tenemos para ayudar. Por ejemplo, les están diciendo que cuando un estudiante no está atendiendo sus clases regular, cuando no está enfocándose en sus clases o cuando están estresados y ya se sienten con mucho estrés o mucho trabajo, entonces es cuando ellos deben de pedir un descanso para que relajen su mente y vuelvan a empezar otra vez. Aparte de eso, tenemos otro curso donde ofrecen tutoreo 24 horas al día, donde el estudiante nomás se puede meter a la hora que él quiera para la ayuda que él ocupa en cualquier estrategia o en cualquier subject, en cualquier clase. Por ejemplo, español, inglés, en cualquiera, se puede meter a tutoreo.com y ahí les ayudan a cualquier hora del día. Y estas son estrategias que los estudiantes no usan cuando ellos se sienten que ocupan la ayuda.
Thank you. All right, so how do we monitor student success? First, we've developed a passport transcript, which I'm going to show you a little bit in a moment for some examples. Counselors review student transcripts 3 times a year at a minimum to audit for the credits they need. We've also added an advisory family period of the day for students to feel more connected with their teachers and their peers. We also have a unique case management system where like once a week, either on Monday or Friday, we talk about how students are doing. We've talked about actions we've taken. We've talked about contacts we've made. And we're constantly reaching out to our partners to get more support for all of our students. And so these are just some of the things that we are doing right now to help monitor and push forward amongst the student cohorts.
Ahorita los maestros, los principales, las consejeras están tratando de hacer es ayudar a los estudiantes que están recuperando o antes de que lleguen a recuperación, están tratando de sacar sus calificaciones, sus transcripts, sus detalles en qué necesitan para graduarse. Por lo menos están haciéndole 3 veces al día. Se juntan todos los maestros y hablan relacionados a quién ocupa más ayuda, qué se puede hacer, qué recursos tenemos para ayudar a esa persona y qué se puede ayudar al estudiante para progresar y ayudarle a no estar donde está con esos grados.
Thank you. So here are some what we call like our transcript. We're calling them passports right now. And so you're going to start seeing these come out throughout the spring for individual students. And we're going to start using these in the years ahead, where you're going to see exactly what courses the student took, the courses they got their credits in, maybe where they are earning credits or where they have missed credits. And I'm going to show you a couple of pictures from a couple of different cases. This would be a student who we would actually consider as being on track. They've earned the majority of credits needed. And within this next semester in the spring, they can actually get all the credits they need to graduate on time.
Este es un pasaporte que están empezando, donde les están enseñando a los papás qué es las clases que ocupan, qué clases completaron, qué clases se fallaron o qué clases están tomando en el momento. Este es un ejemplo de un estudiante donde está en la manera donde debe de estar para su grado.
Thank you. All right, so here's a 12th grader who is at risk. And we can see that they're at risk because over here at the chemistry, which generally happens earlier, they don't have the credits from their chemistry course. And so that's putting them at the chance of being at risk. But for the most part, they have all the credits they need.
Este es otro ejemplo para un estudiante del grado 12 que está al riesgo. Por ejemplo, aquí en lo rojo está diciendo que está incompletos o le hace falta los certificados o las calificaciones para químicas. Todo lo demás está completando menos eso. Está al riesgo, no está tan al riesgo, pero sí está al riesgo. Y ese es el pasaporte que están ofreciendo de hoy en adelante para todos los papás.
All right, and I'm just going to show you a couple more now for those that might be more off track in a couple different grades as well.
Ahorita va a enseñar más pasaportes para los estudiantes del grado 12 que están más al riesgo que otros. Y aquí va a mirar todo lo rojo. Lo rojo es un ejemplo de todas las clases que no han completado o que ocupan los créditos.
And so we can see in this next student as a high risk. They need significant credits to graduate on time. And if you look, these are multiple years of failures in classes that have compounded to reduce the likelihood that this person will graduate on time.
So este es un ejemplo de un estudiante que está al riesgo muy alto, donde no ha completado varias clases durante los años y donde ya está atrasado para graduarse.
All right, and then we are going to move down here. All right, so what are some of the consequences of off-track and recovery? And sometimes I think some of the students aren't thinking about these long-term consequences in the short moment ahead.
Estas son las consecuencias para los estudiantes de recuperación y qué necesitan hacer para recuperar todo lo que han atrasado, todos los créditos o las clases que no han completado.
And so the number one is that you're at risk for not being able to walk across the stage with your peers for graduation. Graduation is something that is earned. We work hard to try to make sure every student gets the chance and has multiple opportunities and multiple tracks to get to it, but it is something that is earned. And so there's always that chance that if you get far enough behind, you don't actually get to participate in the graduation ceremony.
De que el primer riesgo para no graduarse o para estar en recuperación es tener eso en mente, que no vas a poder graduarte o caminar con tus amigos a la graduación. Es una cosa que todos los estudiantes tienen que pensar antes de llegar a este punto.
And then, like some of the obvious, or you're going to now have to take a Play-Doh course, which is almost all independent on your own. You might have to have more classes than other kids because you have to make them up. Colleges and universities look at your transcript to determine entrance. Even banks will look at your transcript if you don't go into college to try to determine if they want to give you a loan. If they want to see, can you handle high school classes? And if you can't handle high school classes, they might not be willing to give out a loan or a loan at a good rate if you're trying to open your own business.
So hay más complicaciones que puede tener cuando llega a este punto en la escuela. Requisitos: necesita tomar más clases que son clases de Play-Doh que tienes que hacer tú solo, sin ayuda, sin soporte de nadie. Tienes que completar todos tus cursos que no has completado en los últimos grados. Aparte de eso, dicen que cuando vas y calificas por un préstamo en un banco, es lo que están chequeando. Tus transcripts, tus grados de high school para ver si hiciste o trataste lo más que podías para agarrar los grados para prestarte un préstamo o prestarte un dinero en cualquier opción que estés pidiendo.
And very similar here with off-track and recovery, they are very similar. The only addition I'll say is that once you get so far off from getting your credits, you may be forced out of ag prep. You might be forced out of BC classes because BC puts students on probation where you can't take any more BC classes because you didn't pass the previous ones that you took. So there are some things where your opportunities start to dwindle as that changes.
Pues ya dependiendo en qué riesgo estás, es cuando las clases de colegio de BC te van sacando porque te ponen en probation, que es una donde ya tienes muchas clases que vas fallando y ya no te pueden dar más porque no creen que eres estable para tomar más clases.
And so this is just a note on BC probation. And again, we're going to post the video and the slides later, but just a note that, again, it is possible that if you don't pass your BC classes, they will restrict you from being able to take any more BC classes.
Dice que la probation de BC es clases cuando ya no puedes tomar suficiente o ya has fallado varias clases y ya no te pueden dar más clases por los grados que has tenido o el GPA que has tenido.
All right, so what are we doing as a backup plan to help students get back on track? And these are the big picture items, and we talk about some small ones later on.
Estas son las cosas que estamos haciendo para ayudar a los estudiantes que están abajo y necesitan recuperarse y ponerse al mismo corriente.
And so this left side, these are some of the things that you might want to look for. Ask your child if they're in a Play-Doh course. They should know that because they should be taking a Play-Doh course. And you can also ask their counselor if they need it. They need to retake failed courses and they need to do it differently the second time they're in their course. Because they do it the same way, nothing's going to change at that point. Our incomplete packets, they need to do those incomplete packets and get them turned in by Monday so that we can restore credits to the individual student transcripts. And they need to make sure they're staying up with all of their current courses as well.
Esto es nomás una opción de los estudiantes que ya no están en la misma pista donde deben de estar, en la pista correcta. Pregúntele a su estudiante si está tomando clases de Play-Doh. Esas son las clases que te ayudan a recuperar las clases. Si reprobaron alguna clase del semestre pasado, ahí están completando paquetes. Esos paquetes tienen que estar completados antes del lunes. El lunes ya todos esos paquetes tienen que estar entregados para agarrar sus grados del semestre arriba. Tienen que volver a tomar sus clases o cursos del semestre o las clases de los periodos anteriores y necesitan completar todos sus trabajos de las clases al corriente. Tienen que tener al corriente todas sus tareas, sus trabajos, todo lo que se le están dando desde enero hasta ahorita.
Most of our changes as human beings come within our mind first. Our mind has to perceive the need to change and understand the change in order to then be the change. And so one of the things we really like to focus over here on the right is what are the roots to getting back on track? And these first two are so important. A child needs to believe that they can get back on track to make any of these other things happen. If the child believes, I just can't do it, I might as well fail, it doesn't matter anyways, they're not going to be able to do any of the right things to get back on track. And it's going to take time. It's not an instant snap my fingers and I'm back on track. But sometimes the best thing to target is to target their belief. Talk to them, make them believe that they can, make them feel confident, make them really feel that they can be that difference and really have a different future.
Las estrategias ahorita es que un estudiante necesita creer en su mente y que tenga positividad de que va a completar la clase, va a pasar la clase. Si ellos cambian su forma de pensar, entonces eso les va a ayudar para pasar todas sus clases, para pasar todo lo que necesitan pasar para graduarse. Si ellos cambian su manera de pensar, entonces pueden lograr mucho.
And then it begins with the small things, showing up to all of the classes, staying them, really focusing on trying over being 100%. And that's what I try to tell all the students. Listen, I don't care if you get an A+ in all of your classes. I care that the work you turn in is the best work you can turn in. Whether that's a C or an A, it needs to be your best work. And if it is your best work, we're going to get you to where you need to be. But on paper, we need to see that full attempt of the work, because everything we do after that as educators is impacted by those assignments that are turned in. And then just the last two of dedicate more time now to not be in the hole more later, right? And again, students, like it happens all the time of, you know, I got sick, or something happened to a family member. We're living in a pandemic. And so that turns into like a little bit of a hole. And if we can focus on filling that hole in now before it becomes double the size or triple the size, it's much easier to get out of that hole moving forward.
Entonces les está poniendo otra estrategia. Cuando empiezan, ya cambian su forma de pensar, entonces tienen que enseñarse o empezar a enseñarse a regresar a sus clases regularmente. Ya cuando completan de estar en sus clases regularmente, pueden contestar, pedir preguntas a los maestros, dedicar más tiempo, dedicar más tiempo al tutoreo, a los maestros, a su trabajo. Y en vez de atrasarse o poner pretextos por qué no completaron el trabajo, haz más esfuerzo en entregar todo lo que necesitas entregar.
Thank you. All right, so we got one more slide, and then I'm going to hand out the surveys, and then I'll stop the recording, and then I can handle any questions or set up some additional supports as needed. So these are really the key points. First, we offer multiple tracks to graduation. We look at students individually to determine their best track to graduation and their best track to get to the future that they want. We look at numerous data points to determine students who might not be on track. And we also offer multiple opportunities to restore on track, right? We have the incomplete packets. We have tutoring sessions. We have Plato courses. You can retake courses. We offer Summer Academy. We're planning some additional things in the future as well. And then down here, like, we understand that all students, particularly our recovering off track students, are going to face hardships, but also knowing that there are consequences to not persevering, to doing the work right now, and understanding that as a driving force to get the work done at this point, but also knowing that improvement takes something different, right? If I get this opportunity to do the incomplete packet, but I continue the same beliefs and the same actions, things probably aren't going to change. And so really targeting and looking at the beliefs the student might have about school and about their future in that process.
Aquí estamos ofreciendo las pistas, de diferentes pistas que ofrecemos para ayudar a los estudiantes. Ofrecemos tutoreo, ofrecemos Plato, ofrecemos diferentes cosas en donde los estudiantes pueden aprobar y tratar de cambiar su forma de pensar. Es nuestro logro que traten de cambiar su forma de pensar y saber ellos que sí se puede y sí pueden lograr en acabar las calificaciones y acabar las tareas que están atrasadas, en acabar las clases que le hacen falta. Sí se puede cuando uno se cambia de la forma de pensar.
All right, thank you. I am going to end the recording, but as I'm doing that, there is a link to the English version of the survey, and then a Spanish version of the survey, and then I'll end the recording and we can take any questions.
So aquí puso todos las pantallas que puso, las puso en inglés y las puso en español, para si ustedes necesitan más apoyo o más información, aquí están. Va a parar la grabación y si tiene alguna pregunta, ahorita es su tiempo de preguntar.